So let's now dive into this forms feature and learn how it can simplify the process of getting and handling user input. Now for that, I'll add a new widget, which I'll name new item.dart, because we'll have a separate screen for adding new items. And in this new item.dart file, I'll therefore add a new class, a new widget class, which I'll name new item, and which extends stateful widget here, because we'll use some stateful widget features in this widget here. So therefore this should be stateful, because we'll need to manage some state later. And therefore, of course, we also have the new item state class here, which extends state, a state which is connected to the new item widget though, like this. And then here in new item, as always, we have create state, where the state also refers to new item, and where we then return a new instance of our new item state here, like this. And of course, we also should add the constructor function here, which can be a const constructor function, new item, where I only accept and forward this key. So really a basic constructor function. And in the state, we then have our build method, of course, as always. And in here, we will then build this new item screen in the end. So this form that should be displayed. Now I will indeed load this as a separate screen, and therefore we could have also annotated this widget with screen here at the end, but since in this basic app I will only have these two widgets and both will be screens, I will not make that differentiation here, but you could of course. But here I'll have this widget which will be a screen, and therefore I will of course start by returning a scaffold widget to have that base screen set up as always. Now in there, I then want to have my app bar to set a title in this place. And this title here is simply some const text, a const text widget, where we could say add a new item, because that's what we're doing on this screen. We're about to add a new item to our grocery list. Of course, then in scaffold, we also have our body, and this body will in the end be this form on which we're working. Now, before adding that actual form, I'll add the padding widget though, to add some padding to the left and right and top and bottom, so some spacing between the form inputs and the edges of the device screen. And for that, we have to set the padding parameter here on the padding widget. And I'll set it to a value of edge insets all of 12. The value, of course, as always, is up to you, and we should add const here because this is a const widget. At the moment, I could also add const here and remove it here in front of edge insets, but this will change later on, so therefore I'll only add const here and not add it in front of padding. And with that, as a next step on the padding widget, we have to set the child parameter, and this will now hold the actual form that we're going to add. Now we're going to get started with that form in the next lecture. For the moment, I'll just add a dummy text placeholder, the form, which we will get rid of in the next lecture, but I will add it here so that we can simply see whether we can reach this screen by going back to grocery list, and there I now want to make sure that we have a button that takes us to the new item screen. And that button here should be in the app bar, because there, besides having that title, I want to have some actions, or one action, in this case here to be precise. And that one action should be an icon button, which we can tap to go to this new item screen. And item button, of course, wants the onPressed parameter, as you saw before in this course, and the icon parameter. Now for the icon, I'll render a new icon with the built-in icon widget, and I'll use the add icon here. And for onPressed, we want to add a function here that takes us to the new screen, and we could do this all here in an anonymous function, and that would be all right. But here I'll actually add a new method. Add item could be a fitting name, and this method doesn't return anything at the moment. Therefore, I'll add it like this. And it's now add item, which I want to assign as a value to onPressed. So this underscore add item function I just added here. And inside of add item, I will now use the navigator, which is built into Flutter, about which you learned before in the course, of context as you learned. And context here is not available at the moment because we're in a stateless widget, which unlike the state class does not have a globally available context widget. And therefore we could either accept it here as an input, and then of course make sure that add item gets called such that the context is passed along, for example by wrapping it here into an anonymous function so that we have full control over how it will be called. And then we could forward context like this. We could do all of that, but since I'm saying could, this is probably not what I'm going to do. Instead, I'll go back to this version here and not accept build context as a parameter here. And instead, I'll convert stateless widget here to a stateful widget because we will later need to manage a list of items in this widget here anyways, and therefore this will have to become a stateful widget later. Hence, we can already make this conversion, right-click on stateless widget and refactor and convert it to a stateful widget. And with that conversion done, we can now use context here. So with that back here in add item, I can use navigator of context and then make sure that we go to the new item widget as a screen by using push as you learned it before in this course. And now here we want to push a material page route like this, and this then takes the builder function where we get this context for this route, and we then simply return our new item widget here. And for that you just must make sure that you also add an import to the new item Dart file to this grocery list.dart file. But then we have this added here, and we can go to the new item screen. And here we can actually add const because we get a const constructor in a new item, and we don't pass any dynamic value or a function as a value to new item. Hence we can use this const constructor like this. So with that we have the add item method, and we should be able to go to this new item screen. If we save everything, we now see that plus button, this add button here in the app bar, and if we tap it, indeed we're taken to this new item screen. And now we can work on this new item screen and add the form to it.